let's bring Reggie on as well. Tim, stay there, mate. Reggie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. What's on your mind?
So I read the other. It's more of a question for you. I read the other day that in this country we have more illegal migrants that have come over the last 2 years than we do soldiers in this country. Do you think if we went to war tomorrow with another country, would we be ready? And do you think we could defeat that country if we went to war with them?
Are you talking about a country, an overseas country? You're talking about?
Yeah, I would say more a big country like Russia, something like that. Because as Keir Starmer said, obviously we can't really believe anything that he says, but he said the biggest threat to the country at the moment is Russia, which I think isn't true. I think Islam is the biggest threat to the UK at the moment, but he says Russia. So if we went to war with Russia, do you think we'd be able to defeat them?
It's a very tough question to answer, mate, and I'll tell you why. Firstly, we're a part of NATO, obviously, which means that,
Yes.
one for all for one. So, look, Russia are stretched as it is with Ukraine. I think it would be a very foolish, if we take the nuclear side of things out of the equation, because at the bottom line is, Reggie, with nuclear weapons, you nullify each other. All you do is you just deliver the knockout blow to each other and it's all over. But if you're talking about boots on the ground, a more traditional war, well, first of all, where would that take place? I'm not trying to avoid your question. The honest answer is, although our armed forces are small, I still believe they are the very, very best in the world when it comes down to it. I think a more likely scenario, let me give you a more likely scenario, would be the Argentinians having another go with the Falklands.
Yes.
I think that's far more likely. Now, the question there is, would this government have the will to do what Margaret Thatcher did back in the 1980s? I think the answer to that is no. I think if General Galtieri was alive and kicking today down there in Argentina, all he would have to do is land one boat on Falklands soil and Keir Starmer would put his hands up and go, it's all yours.
I agree. I think Keir Starmer's a weak leader, and I don't think he's got the potential to lead a country into war. That's the end of it. I feel like...
Mate, I don't think he's got the potential to lead his dog down the path. The guy's a disaster, and absolutely he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a human rights lawyer. Even his voice is enough to want to make someone go to war with us. So,
sorry to jump in, Paul.
Go on, Reggie, go for it.
Reggie, do you mind me asking? I've not heard you on here before. Don't give your exact age. Don't want you to dox yourself. But roughly what age are you? Because you sound a little bit younger than us.
Yeah, I'm 15 myself, mate. I'm 15.
You're 15, and how do people your age kind of see what you've got in the future in regards to what the UK's got to give you? Because obviously you've come on here, which is a big thing to do for a 15-year-old to kind of jump on a YouTube channel and give your opinion, which. To be honest, I think you're right. But how do other kind of 15-year-olds that you go to school with at the moment, do you talk to them about this? Do you, or are you just kind of a bit of an individual? Because it's, my worry is the youngsters don't really talk about this and don't really care. But given that the next election you're going to be able to vote, what were your mates and peers thinking?
A lot of them aren't interested. I'm going to be honest. I try and put as much knowledge as I can into them and tell them, look, we're the future of this country. We need to decide what's going to happen in the next 20, 30 years. And we're going to determine what happens within Western civilization. And I feel they're not paying enough attention. There's one liberal, proper lefty person who I debate almost every day, always ends up in an argument because all they do is end up saying, oh, you're racist, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. And I'm like, for saying my opinion, how are you calling me that? But I just feel there's not enough interest inside politics within the youth.
And do they talk to you much at school about it? Do they try and talk to you about what's going on in the world today? Or
do you mean teachers or peers?
Probably more like teachers. I mean, where do you get your information from? Because obviously, when I was a youngster, it was the 6 o'clock news on BBC, which has kind of been pushed on us for years and years. And the last few years, people are waking up. But what where do you get your information from these days? And do your teachers, do you feel like they're pushing an agenda one way or another, or are they just pretty silent about it all?
I'll start with your first question. Where do I get my news source from? Sort of nowadays, where you're young, you've got a lot of social media and stuff, and you just have stuff coming from all different sources, and it's all just gets put in your brain, and then you have a look what's true, you search it up, find out your facts, and that's sort of where I get my news from and get my knowledge from. And the second question you said, are they pushing an agenda on you? 100%. I don't think there's a teacher in my school that isn't a lefty from what I know. One of them said, "I'm glad Charlie Kirk's dead. I hope his family join him." Last
What, a
year in the
teacher actually
2020,
said that to you?
yeah, a teacher said that. I think she
Wow.
was given a, I think she
Wow.
was given a formal warning. I think that's the only thing she got was a formal warning. I was given a detention for wearing a reform badge last year in the 2024 election. And I was also suspended from school for saying kids under the age of 18 who change their gender are mentally ill. So I feel like in schools there's not a lot of freedom of speech, first of all. And every time you try and put your opinion across, all they do is just shut you down. They don't want the youth to have their opinion. And they don't also want to be outsmarted by the youth and make themselves look like idiots. And I
Yeah.
don't think the youth have enough opportunity inside politics and enough opportunity to express their opinions in the education.
I've just got to say, Reggie, I know Reggie and I've met him. Well, I know him, so I see him quite a lot. But he is an incredible young man, and he is an
Thank
old
you.
head on young shoulders, Reggie. Like, hats off to you, man, because you are what's reinforced the hope that I have in this country if there is people like you coming up in the ranks. And I was lucky enough to be Reggie's first podcast, which is being released when, Reg?
5th of November, hopefully.
So give your channel a shout out, mate. Reggie, give your channel a shout out.
Right, not left, Reggie on all socials.
Right, not left, Reggie on all socials. Listen, mate, with people like you coming up in the background, we've got nothing to fear. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. See you later.